For decades, the town of Ashford had whispered about the cursed blood-stained lantern. People spoke in hushed tones, warning travelers and newcomers about the dark history of the lantern, but few truly knew the extent of its horrors. The lantern was a relic from a notorious criminal who, before his capture, had committed heinous crimes. It was said that his spirit remained bound to the lantern, which had been passed from one owner to the next, leaving a trail of death and misery. James, a young local historian with a passion for uncovering the past, didn't believe in the superstitions of Ashford. He spent his days digging through old manuscripts, trying to piece together the forgotten history of the town. His latest research led him to an old, decaying mansion on the outskirts of town, once the home of the criminal who had once owned the lantern. He had heard stories about the mansion being abandoned for years, but James was determined to find more answers. As he entered the dark mansion, his flashlight revealed dust-covered furniture and shattered windows. The house was empty, save for the echoes of his footsteps. His heart pounded in anticipation as he navigated through the rooms, his eyes scanning every corner, until he finally came across a hidden door in the basement. Behind it, an old wooden chest lay covered in cobwebs. His hands trembled as he opened it, revealing a blood-stained lantern. The lantern's metal was tarnished, the glass cracked, but it still held an eerie glow, as if something powerful was still inside it. James, curious yet nervous, reached for it and took it into his hands. As soon as he touched it, a chill ran down his spine. The lantern flickered to life, casting an unsettling glow that illuminated the dark corners of the room. The shadows seemed to move on their own, and James felt an unseen presence watching him. A deep voice whispered from within the lantern, but James couldn't make out the words. The air grew thick with tension, and the room seemed to close in on him. In an instant, he was transported back in time to the night of the lantern's creation. The night the criminal had been cornered by the authorities, his blood spilled in a final act of defiance. The criminal's spirit was now bound to the lantern, and it hungered for revenge. James tried to drop the lantern, but it felt as though it had latched onto him. The spirit of the criminal sought to consume him, to claim his soul as the next victim in its endless cycle of terror. James struggled, but the lantern's power was too great. As the lantern's light grew brighter, James saw horrific visions of the past, ghostly images of the criminal's victims, their blood still staining the floor. The lantern had been the witness to all these deaths, and it demanded more. Panicked and desperate, James tried to break the lantern, but it resisted, and with every failed attempt, the light grew stronger, more intense. He realized then that he had made a fatal mistake. The lantern would not let him go. The curse was alive, and now James was its next victim.